This video is sponsored by Osea, a clean, vegan, seaweed-based skin and body care line. Click on the link in the description box and enter the code Ellen_UABB for 10% off your order. Hey. Wanna go swim? Should we go swim, baby? Let's go swim.
Working on a fastball, throwing hard, aiming high and a little bit outside. If it never gets dark, I'll never go inside. Number 45 from the mound takes the sign. Checks the runner on third, working down the line. Holds his breath and closes his eyes. If the game never ends, we'll never go inside. Never say goodbye to this moment. Never say goodnight.
Yes, Mama! This is the nice boardwalk, but not one right now. Oh, it's not! I am here. Getting shot!
Oh, that's lovely,
That little
Scotty.
tiny rock. It's just shaped like a baby.
Has anyone seen Kofi? Kovac!
He's behind you.
Where?
Yeah.
Where? What the? Hold on tight. Got it.
Can't walk this road all on my own. Don't go inside, don't leave me alone. A boy and a dog in a backyard.
Guys, she's
Watching
getting so
satellites
big already. I
spin
can't
from
believe
coast
it.
to
Doesn't she look just like Scout? Just like Scout did at this age. I cannot believe it. You are so big. Dry brushing is the easiest ever trick to exfoliate, smooth, and energize your skin all in one step. And as a mom who doesn't find that much time for myself, doing little body care and skincare routine things like this really go a long way for me. So I dry brush before my shower and then I apply the Undaria algae body butter afterwards and it feels so incredible on my skin. Dry brushing can completely elevate your body care ritual because it removes dead skin cells, cleans your pores, smooths your skin, and stimulates blood flow, allowing your lymph to flow freely. And it just feels really good too. So be sure to buff away the roughness from head to toe and do it before showering. And then apply your products after. Alright, I'm gonna get in the shower. It's important to invest in result-driven products with high performance ingredients, i.e. skincare for your body. I've been using Osea products for years and I'm literally obsessed and I won't be going back to anything I was using before because the way I feel and my skin feels from using their products is just amazing. The Undaria algae body butter is age-defying skincare for your body and has key active anti-aging ingredients including shea butter, DPHP, ceramides, and seaweed. It transforms dry skin, leaving it soft, smooth, and supple, and provides deep hydration for healthier looking skin. The Undaria seaweed in here replenishes the skin's moisture barrier and keeps the skin looking healthy. And I love the way it smells. Baby appearance. Hi! Say hello. It's truly a proactive way to keep your skin feeling and looking healthy and youthful. It is so smooth and rich. It makes my skin feel incredibly soft and it's fast absorbing. It's just a game changer. And be sure to click the link below and use the code Ellen_UABB for 10% off your order. So I thought it would be fun to do a little catch-up Q&A and answer some questions. So I put up a little question box in my Instagram stories and got a bunch of fun questions that I thought I would answer today. What is the story and meaning behind Dagny's name? Dagny is the main character in my favorite novel called Atlas Shrugged, and I read this book in college and I just loved it so much I couldn't put it down. I was reading the book in between classes, like on the floor in the hall at school, and Dagny is the main character. She's like a really strong female character lead, but I just think it's a really beautiful name. And Scout is the main character in my mom's favorite book, To Kill a Mockingbird. So it's kind of cool that both of our girls have names from novels that are strong female character leads. Top 3 baby products. Right now my #1 favorite baby product is this baby carrier that I recently got, and it's unlike any of the other buckle carriers I've ever had, and I just find it to be the most functional and the most comfortable and the most beautiful. What's great about its functionality is that it adjusts with baby's size, and a lot of buckle carriers are not like that. I've never seen a buckle carrier like that. So it's called Artipop, and it has these adjustments right here, which makes it easy to wear the baby when they're really little, even in the buckle carriers, because the buckle carriers are just the easiest to put on. I just really love that one. #2 baby product would be my Grovia diapers. I love the Butter One diapers. They are super soft, they work really well, and they're actually pretty, because milk cloth diapers are so ugly. I don't know why they have the ugliest patterns. It wasn't until the last 2 babies that I'm like, finally someone came out with a really cute cloth diaper brand. I can't think of a third one. Those are kind of like my most essential. Oh, I know. It's the Charlie Crane rocker. I love that Charlie Crane rocker. It's a really cute little baby seat, but it's not like super junky and plasticky looking, like all the bright colors, like all the ones at like Walmart and Target stuff. It's really well made and has this soft fabric, and it's super adorable, and it lasts a really long time. I've had this rocker for my last 3 kids, and then after my baby's done using it, because you really only use it for a few months when they're like this age at 8 weeks old to like maybe 5 months tops or 6 months tops. So it's not a super long window to use it, but it's really helpful in that time frame. But since I don't want to like get rid of it, and I also don't want to have it around the house, but it's also really good quality and not a super cheap product, I pass it around to friends depending on their baby's ages, and it's like the sisterhood of the traveling baby rocker. So if you want to get something like that, you can consider going in on it with your mom friends and just rotate it out in the next like decade or whatever. Did you end up tearing during birth? No, I didn't tear during this birth. The only birth that I tore is after my first birth. And I explained somewhere else on my channel, probably in my birth story videos, that when I began to push in my first birth, my midwife was giving me direction to slow down so I didn't tear, but I didn't take her advice because I was so over being in labor for so long that I just wanted to get it over with. So I was like pushing as hard as I could, and I had a few stitches with the first one, and I tore a little bit. And even just those few stitches, it took a solid like 6 weeks to feel good to sit on my bottom, and it was uncomfortable for sure to heal from. So the next time around, I really wanted to make sure that I didn't tear, and I told my next midwife, who I had moved to Hawaii by this time when I was pregnant with my second, and I told her how I tore with my first birth, and I really didn't want to do that again. So I was like, when I'm put in that pushing phase, please remind me and like just make sure that I listen to your instructions. And she had some really good tips on how to avoid tearing, which I shared in my home birth video just with this last one, but I go way more in depth in the Empowered Pregnancy and Birth course on how to avoid tearing, because there's a lot of different things that can add up and help you prevent tearing or lessen and greatly minimize your tearing. I ended up listening to my midwife's instructions the second time, and I haven't torn with any of the births after that because I use a specific breathing technique which helps counteract that intense urge to bear down and push with breathing up or slowing your breath down, and you can have breathing out as the focus. But I find breathing up really helpful because it forces me not to push when I'm focusing on breathing up. So it's kind of like a when you feel that super intense feeling to bear down. And I know it sounds really funny, and the first time that my midwife had explained to me this breathing technique, I'm like, that sounds really weird. She's like, trust me, it really works. And so when I got into my second birth and I was having that intense urge to push, my midwife reminded me, do this breathing technique, trust me. I'm like, I don't want to, because I just wanted it to be over, because my first 2 labors were extremely long and painful, and I was just so over it, both of them. They were like very similar births, both of them. And it wasn't until I harnessed all these other tools that made my last 3 births significantly more easy and pleasurable and quicker. And the second one, I'm like, okay, yes, I really don't want to tear. So I did that breathing technique, and lo and behold, I didn't tear, and I didn't tear with any of the other ones at all either. So definitely recommend doing that. Bring that to your care provider, bring it up to them, so that way when you go into birth, you can be on the same page about it, because it's really helpful to have that other voice on the side of you, like reminding you when you're in that phase where it can be so easy to like lose control and not focus. And when you have that encouragement from your care provider, whoever is on your team, either if you're at a hospital with your OBGYN or if you're at home with a midwife, being on the same page about that can be really helpful, or even with a doula as well. What it does help is it helps you to not force that baby out harder than you need to, because the baby is gonna come out. So when you slow it down, that really helps you not to tear, because when you have contractions when you're pushing, it's very normal for the baby to come a little bit and then it kind of goes back in, and then it comes a little bit and then it goes back in, and then it comes a little bit further and then it goes back in, because that's that stretching that helps your body get used to it so that you don't tear. It's all meant to happen. Like, your body is so smart and knows what to do, so you just got to work with your body. But like I said, I go a lot more into it into the course. So if you're pregnant and you're wanting some more tips on getting baby into the optimal position and how to avoid tearing and how to have a quicker, easier labor, check that out. I'll put the link below. Okay, can you please discuss natural family planning, natural birth control? Did it fail when you tried it? This is a really great question. The book Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Toni Weschler is an amazing book. I highly recommend it for anyone, even if you're like a teenager and you only recently got your period and you're wanting to understand your body and your cycle and just how it works. And natural family planning is different than the fertility awareness method. A lot of people get the rhythm method confused with the fertility awareness method. So the rhythm method only takes into account past cycles and trying to predict future cycles, which is not very accurate, whereas the fertility awareness method takes into account your current ovulation. So you chart your waking temperature, your basal body temperature, also your cervical fluid, and your cervical position. So all 3 of those combined gives you a really, really good indicator on when you're ovulating throughout your cycle. The fertility awareness method is the method that Andrew and I used to prevent getting pregnant in our first few years of marriage, and it worked really well. We got pregnant exactly when we wanted to get pregnant. We didn't get pregnant when we didn't want to, but the problem that I've had with it after I've had multiple kids is that I'm almost always breastfeeding at night while I've already gotten my cycle, and it's very hard to chart your temperature, your waking temperature, if you're not getting consistent sleep throughout the night. So you're supposed to be getting about 4 solid hours of sleep before you wake up to take your temperature and figure out your ovulation through your morning temperature. But since I'm breastfeeding at night with a baby or a toddler, I'm often woken up somewhere in between that last 4 hours before I get up, and then your temperature isn't as accurate. So that's the problem that I've had, because I end up just being like, ugh, I can't chart it. I'm not able to get an accurate understanding of my ovulation because I'm woken up all throughout the night with a baby. I think it really depends on every person's specific life situation and if it's the right option for you. And also, it's not even just about if you're in the phase of breastfeeding at night. It also has to take into account your personality if you're going to be able to consistently follow through, because you need to be able to take into account all the measures to know accurately whether you're ovulating or not throughout your cycle. Do you think gentle parenting leads to spoiled or misbehaved children? And I think the term gentle parenting has been misused so much. Like, a lot of people get really confused with gentle parenting with passive parenting. They conflate the two. Gentle parenting does not mean passive parenting, and I've gone into this a lot in all kinds of places on both my regular channel when I've done YouTube videos on parenting, but also on the podcast whenever we talk about parenting. I have a couple episodes on parenting so far on the podcast, but passive parenting is not gentle parenting. Like, those are completely different things. And also, the term gentle parenting is, I don't think, the most accurate description of a type of parenting that a lot of times I'm talking about. I kind of and other moms I've seen interchange the words positive parenting or respectful parenting, but I think the term respectful parenting is a better way to describe this type of parenting, where you're seeing the other's beingness and you're treating them as a human being that's equally deserving of respect that you would treat any other adult. And when you come with that mindset, then that is going to change the game completely in how you parent. And I absolutely do not think it creates spoiled children. Being respectful in your parenting does not mean there isn't discipline, and does not mean there isn't boundaries. Those are completely different things. Like someone who's just letting their kid do whatever they want and there's no boundaries or rules, like there are boundaries that you follow through with. It's just how you communicate with the child through those boundaries is the biggest difference. Because if your child is doing something that you're trying to correct them from doing, instead of yelling at them, shaming them, belittling them for the mistake that they've made, the difference is following through with those boundaries. There are rules, there are consequences, natural consequences, which our kids have consequences in our family life all the time, and natural consequences. But the difference is how you communicate with them. So if you're yelling at them versus communicating lovingly and respectfully like you would to your friend or your husband or your family member, like other family member, like your parents. What are you most looking forward to in this new season of life? I'm really looking forward to slowing my life down and actually working less. Like now with the 5, it is such a full house and it's so full all the time that it feels so good just to work less and spend more quality time with them, especially because they're little for such a short period of time. So that's what I'm most looking forward to. That is my goal. Best homeschooling resources, thanks. So I have an entire video on YouTube on homeschooling and all our favorite resources. It's one of my favorite videos. I love that video that I made. It's quite long and in-depth. Check that out. It's homeschooling on my YouTube channel. And then I also have a homeschooling podcast episode that I did with one of my best friends, Josefa, and also our friend Jenna. She's waking up. Let me get her. You want to say hi, everybody? Oh. Hi Ellen, how do you support a good relationship between siblings? I recommend you check out my podcast episode with Dr. Shefali Saberi. She is amazing and we had a really great conversation, and we definitely talked about sibling rivalry and sibling relationships in that episode, and I really loved that part of the conversation. But I think one of the best tips is to not make one of the kids out to be the bad guy. It can be very easy to point the finger at one of them if one of them is more consistently picking on the other, or a lot of times it's the older one that gets in trouble more than the other one. When you do that, you start to like instill in the younger one that yeah, the older one is the bad guy, and then it just becomes this negative cycle. So instead you're going to want to get down on their level and talk to them and say, okay, I can tell you're really upset right now at the other. Tell them with your words that you're upset. I'm really upset that you did this, or I'm mad at you right now. I don't like that you did this, or stop doing this, and give them like the exact phrases they can say, because a lot of times kids just don't know how to communicate very well and they need that example. So leading by example is probably the number one though, right? Like the way that you treat others. How's your relationship with your partner? Because if you and your partner are arguing all the time, how can you expect your kids to not argue when they're way less developed and have been on this earth way less time? So being the example is number one. And then number 2 would be to give them practical tools on how to communicate with each other, like examples, because those examples, they go, oh, okay, this is what I can say instead. And then by not pitting them against the other, something my mom advised for me, she's like, when you and Hannah were little, I would just tell you to go work it out in your room. And I know that's not necessarily going to be the answer for every situation, right? Like if there are certain families where the 2 kids have a really extreme situation, you can't just send them to their room where one is being like incredibly worse to the other. But a lot of times it's just like sibling arguments, right? And so my mom would recommend to just like send your kids to the room to work it out and be like, you can come out when you guys have worked it out. And they get over it and they work it out a lot quicker than you would think when it's just left up to them, as opposed to them trying to get their parents on their side to be like, look, I'm the one in the right, he's the one that should get in trouble, right? A lot of times that just makes it worse. I know that that's not the answer for every situation, but it can be very helpful sometimes. What car did you have before baby number 5? With Dagny, what are you looking to get next? So we've shared one family car for the last decade, and right now we have a Honda Pilot, and it works. It still can fit everybody, but it's a pretty tight squeeze, like climbing over all the car seats. We are thinking of getting another car eventually, but we've really liked sharing one family car, mostly because it's cost effective and it saves money. We've had the Honda Pilot for the last, I think, 7 years. And if we get another car, we're thinking of getting the Ford Transit, but I know that it looks like a cargo shipping type of car, and it looks like a car where you like take people on touristy destinations, but the practicality aspect where we could seat even 3 or 4 more people when we want to take their friends, the kids' friends, somewhere all together would be really nice, and there's like a lot of trunk space. So we're thinking of getting that one in addition, and then we would have 2 cars. The only time where I really wish we have 2 cars is every year during sports season, because Andrew's the coach for the baseball teams. He ends up having to take the car for like hours at a time, 4 or 5 times a week, and if I ever want to go anywhere with like the other kids, the little kids, I can't go anywhere because we just share one car. So that's the only time of the year when I'm like, dang, it would be really nice to have 2 cars. But other than that time of the year, which ends up being kind of a long time because Elvis does like 2 different baseball leagues, like he loves baseball so much, so it's a good chunk of the year now at this point since he's getting older. But other than that part, having and sharing one car is totally worth it to us, and it feels fine. But now we're getting to the point where they're like getting in sports seasons, they're doing more things, and having 2 cars would be nice. But we would keep this Honda Pilot as long as possible. Like, I don't want to like get a different brand new car, you know, just big believer in like saving and using your car as long as you can. What's your favorite thing or activity that you do for yourself? The first thing would probably be when I have a solid like 30 minutes to myself to really take care of my skin and do like a great skincare routine before or after my shower, and just like do all the things, the special oils and exfoliants and doing face masks and everything like that, and taking a good long time for myself for that is one of my favorite things. When I'm like not interrupted and I'm not like having kids like knocking on the door and needing me and things like that. That's probably one of my favorite things I do for myself, if I get that time for myself. And I know that like a shower is like totally basic, like everybody needs a shower. That shouldn't be something that's considered for myself. I'm talking like when it's like extra care, when I can do all the extra facial like spa treatment type things for myself at home. And my other favorite thing that I do for myself is probably when I go hang out with my girlfriends and have like a sleepover together. So my 2 best friends, Josefa and Danielle, we like to get together and have a sleepover every once in a while, maybe like once every couple months or something, and we just make dinner together and stay up late and chat and maybe watch a movie and just hang out all night. And that's probably one of my favorite things to do for myself too. Okay, that's it for now, and that was really fun answering some questions. There's so many that I could answer. I could probably do like 10 videos just answering questions. You guys have so many fun ones to ask, but I hope you enjoyed this.